Hey there and welcome. I am joined today by our customer service guru at Homeschool Better Together, Miss Dawn Garrett. She's been on the podcast a number of times, but it's been a little while since you've joined me, Dawn. So welcome.
I'm so glad to be here. It's always a fun time to chat and talk about these things.
So today we're diving into 5 lessons we've learned in, I'm going to say 7 years of doing the Homeschool Consistency Bootcamp. But honestly, we haven't done it for 7 years in a row. We took a little break for a while.
We did, but we brought it back because so many people were like, why don't you do this anymore? And we also were like, we really feel like it is one of the strong things that we offer to the community. It really helps so many people. Has helped so many people. Yeah.
So we started in 2017, if my calculations are correct. And it was just some crazy idea I had. I remember it was like in November or something, which Dawn's like, why are you coming up with things to do in November? Because at that point, you were like, your school year ended in November and you were like, I'm on a break. But yeah, in November of that year, I just got to thinking about all of the struggles that I had personally had with homeschool consistency. And maybe there was a way to help other people with a little bit of accountability. And it really started as this small accountability thing that we did for maybe 4 weeks. I can't remember if we had texts then or not.
Actually, there was a new technical thing that we wanted to play with. And so, yeah, we started out with I think it was pretty much just text almost at first.
Yeah.
Beta time.
Yeah. And then we took all the feedback, and which is funny because I was talking to Meg the other day and I was in that beta group. She's been around for that long. Meg is our customer. No, let me get that. She is our operations manager. And so she was in that beta group. And so, we do have some people who have been around with us since that very long time ago. Accountability to start with. And then I really started putting my finger on what everybody's struggles were. And the next time we ran it in the spring of the following year, then it became more like what it is today, where we have the 6 different lessons that you do and work your way through all of the mindset stuff. And I think what's interesting, we have people who come back time and time again and do the boot camp for the refresher over and over again. But I also think that you and I learn stuff every time we do the boot camp as well.
Yes. I think we see where people struggle. Like you said, you created the courses and the lessons by putting your finger on what their struggles were. Each group has a different struggle. It's amazing to me that each time we run it, there's like a thread that I'm like, oh no, we have to address that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we've learned different things over the 7 years for sure.
And a lot of times we'll plan out what it's going to look like ahead of time. We'll get the whole plan in place, and Dawn will send me a message and she'll say, oh, we need to go on a special video and address this thing this time. And so we end up throwing in an extra lesson, almost like a mini lesson based on kind of the struggles that we're seeing. And so we're going to talk about some of those things today. One last little thing before we get into this, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is the Consistency Bootcamp the favorite thing that you do?
I'd say between this and the autopilot, for sure, that I really have a heart to help homeschoolers homeschool well so that they can continue homeschooling and feel good about it. And I really feel like this helps everybody. And people come out of this feeling like I can homeschool well. And it's a real joy to me to see all the people who come out of it feeling that way. So yeah probably.
Yeah, I think you were probably saddest when it went away and happiest when it came back. I'm not going to lie. I love morning time. I love doing morning time. My favorite thing we do is autopilot. That's my jam because I'm crazy planner lady. But yeah, I always felt like Consistency Bootcamp was really like one of Dawn's babies. It's a great job shepherding those people through the course every single time. I appreciate you for that. And I know a lot of the moms appreciate you for that as well. Okay, lessons. We're going to start with 5 lessons we've learned in 7 years of boot camp. We may come up with more. I told Dawn, I said, I bet we think of something else, but we're going to start with 5. And number 1 is what, Dawn?
Consistency helps everybody. Pam and I do not homeschool the same way.
Yeah.
Meg does not homeschool the same way that we do. Lainey, like the people on our team, homeschoolers all over the country that have done boot camp that are just in our community. Nobody does homeschooling the exact same way. Consistency helps every single one of us do it better.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have a line in one of my talks, and at this point, I can't remember which talk it is. And I firmly believe this. Like I say this with such conviction every single time. Consistency trumps homeschool method, consistency trumps curriculum choices. If you are like, how do I make my homeschooling work? Do I need to be a classical homeschooler or a unit study homeschooler or a Charlotte Mason homeschooler? Or do I need to use this curriculum or that curriculum or this other curriculum? Unless you have your consistency issues fixed, that stuff is completely secondary. You got to fix the consistency stuff first. And I don't know, you can make arguments that having a method that you gel with could help with your consistency, or finding a curriculum that you and your kids like can help with your consistency. But I think what we've seen through the years is that consistency things are there, like those things will not solve a consistency issue.
Correct. They will not solve a consistency issue, but those things will help you, or consistency will help you apply what you believe about children and what you believe about what it means to do education, to do schooling, and it will help you succeed with what you believe about those things. But if you don't have consistency, you like autopilot when we talk about choosing curriculum, where I was like, you have to give the curriculum 6 weeks of a fair shake before you say, oh no, this one doesn't work. Consistency is what makes whether or not this curriculum is going to work or not, whether this way of teaching is going to work or not. And if you don't do it consistently, it just, you can't make a fair evaluation of anything, of your kids, of your home, of what you're doing in your schooling, of a sport, nothing if you don't do it consistently.
Yeah. And I think that was a big lesson for me because I jumped around so much when we started. And the problem wasn't the method, the problem wasn't the curriculum. The problem was the lack of consistency. And that's something I would tell homeschoolers out there who are really struggling and they're like, oh, I just need to switch to this other method, or I just need to find, maybe if I do Montessori, everything will be perfect or whatever. And really ask yourself, is the consistency working? Do I have that down? And that I really do believe comes first.
Consistency is greater than the homeschooling. It's about how your household runs and your parenting. And it helps to get everything else lined up that you're doing in your home. And we see so often that so many of the problems in the home are fixed by just being consistent.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump to number 4. Yeah, we'll just go out of order. This is like our order. You guys don't know we're jumping to number 4, except I just told you. But yeah, so number 4 was, it's exhausting to take charge, but that gets the biggest results. This is like the elephant in the room right here, where a lot of times people struggle because it is so tiring to step up and take charge. And I think one of the things I want to say about this is, sometimes you have to stop the academics for a few weeks and just focus on the consistency, and that what we mean by taking charge is like getting your discipline ducks in a row. And consistency helps with that. Consistency with the academics 100% helps with that. If you have kids that are reluctant to do school, and think about a baby, they're crying. Are they hungry? Are they wet? Do they have a stinky diaper? Do they need a nap? Same thing. If you have a kid who's crying over their homeschool, check your curriculum, check your this, check your that. And then if all of that stuff is checking out, then what you probably need to make that reluctance go away is just consistency, is stepping up and being consistent. And so I know that's so hard to say, like the academics have to be secondary for a few weeks until we get these, I'm in charge, in the most loving, kind way possible, but I'm in charge and we are doing school. This is what we're doing. You can't talk me out of it. You can't manipulate me out of it. You can't whine me out of it. You can't, like, we're doing it.
Yeah, your kids will set their own agenda for the day. And when you disrupt that agenda, that's when they are like, oh, they don't know that they've set an agenda, but they're like, I'm going to play Lego and I'm going to do this with my dolls and watch these shows. And they know what they want to do with their day. And it doesn't always line up with what you want to do with their day. So setting the expectations and saying, okay, but this time is my time and this is what we're going to do with it really does make a huge difference in fighting those battles for you.
Yeah.
So yes, you have to fight some battles, especially at the beginning, and you have to win those battles. They don't have to be they don't have to be awful.
Yeah. They're not like knockdown, drag out battles. They're just, they're stay the course battles.
Yeah.
They're going to come at you. They're going to throw everything they have at you to get you to back down, and you just stay the course. And when you show them that you are going to stay the course, no matter what they throw at you, then they stop throwing things at you. And the way this works is they have their own agenda because there's a vacuum there and they're filling that vacuum. If you're not setting the agenda, there's a vacuum and they're filling that vacuum with their own agenda. And when they realize, because you're being consistent, that there's no vacuum there, you're going to get up every day and you're going to start morning time at 9 a.m. And then you're going to move on to individual work. And there's going to be a list there. Or there's going to be a stack of stuff that they have to do. When something goes into that vacuum, then they know I can set my agenda for after 1 o'clock or after 2 o'clock, and they stop fighting you on it. And so it really it's just that order and consistency that, so being in charge.
And also trust. You build trust with your kids by helping them believe that you're going to do what you said we're going to do today. So order and trust, those things really go together. Yes.
And you don't understand fully about the trust thing, honestly, until they get to be teenagers and they call you on it. When you have a kid saying, but you said we were going to start at 10 o'clock and you didn't because you floated off into your own agenda, and you're like, oh, I'm setting up a situation where, and like your 9-year-old is not going to call you out on that. They're just going to play Legos.
What?
Yeah. And drag their feet and stuff like that. But the teenager, totally going to do it. Yeah.
For sure.
Very much so. Which brings us to number 3, which is consistency is not about kids. It's about mom. And this kind of goes to being in charge, right? And we get this question all the time. And I don't know, we've given a few refunds before, haven't we, Dawn? Because it's like, what do you mean you're not going to fix my kids? No, we're not working on your kids in the consistency bootcamp. Doesn't matter how old they are, how young they are. Like, we get the question, what age is this for? Probably like 27 to 55.
For sure.
Not about kids.
I don't know about you. Like, I was public schooled all the way through, and my job was to show up and just follow through the steps and do what the teachers said that I had to do. And there were bells and there was a schedule, and there isn't a whole lot of pushback. There's this outside authority telling me what I have to do. In my homeschool, I am that outside authority. I did not learn how to be that outside authority. Teaching boot camp and going through it all these times over 7 years really has helped me, not just to help others, but it's helped me in my own homeschool to learn how to exercise authority appropriately.
And we're not saying that you should set up bells or follow like a strict time schedule or anything like that. We're just saying, say what you're going to do, whatever that is. And we have some moms who are like brand new, like they have like new babies and they're doing boot camp. And we always caveat that, okay, you can come through and learn, because we only offer it twice a year and they want it. And so we're like, okay, you can come through and learn, and maybe you don't actually start like really implementing this until 5 or 6 months down the road. But we also have moms with teenagers, and you are the one who decides what consistency looks like. And then we challenge you to meet the vision of consistency that you have set up. And we're not saying you have to have bells or strict schedules or like that at all.
No, just that because it was always somebody outside telling me what to do, I never learned how to regulate it for myself, I guess is what
Yes.
I was trying to say. And by working through the boot camp ideas all these times, I'm much better at regulating my own personal time, which means I'm better at regulating my children's time.
Yeah. And we have all kinds of little, I guess, tips and hacks you would call them that we introduce and encourage you to use throughout the boot camp that helps you with some of these things. Because if there is a problem, I've struggled with it. Being late, I've struggled with it. Not waking up before my children, I've struggled all not going to bed on time. Pam has struggled with all the things. And so we've come up with some things that
Mhm.
we teach you throughout the boot camp to help you with all of those things. But it really is about mom. When mom starts getting herself in order, then the kids, like the little ducks, follow along behind. Okay. So the next thing we've learned in all the years of the consistency boot camp, it's about a specific thing that we teach in the boot camp. So we teach something called a minimum viable day. This is a strategy that we teach boot camp members to use. And it really is, it's something you have to practice using. And we practice with you all throughout the boot camp. You determine this. So once again, you're the one who's deciding, but it's the least amount of school that you can do and still feel good about having done school. And really, it's a tool. If we were sitting and doing like a whole episode on the minimum viable day, which we're not going to do, you have to come join the boot camp if you want to learn that much about it. But one of the things it does in boot camp is it is a tool to help you be consistent no matter what. Even when life is crazy and off the rails, this is the way to be consistent because honestly, your kids are probably not sitting there keeping score of school. If you do just a couple things in their little brains, they're like, we did school today and you stayed consistent. Whereas, oh, we didn't do the perfect homeschool day. Remember a few
Mhm.
weeks ago, I talked about perfectionism. In your head, we didn't do the perfect homeschool day, but the kids don't know that. They're like, we did school today.
Mhm.
So here's what we know about the MVD. It has to be shorter than what you think it should be. That's the biggest thing. Everybody, we always get a big group of people that tries to make it like way too long.
Like their whole school day is the minimum. That's the very least they can do. And it cannot be that because it's not, it's like when you're doing catch to 5K, you start off running with 30 seconds and then you're walking and then you do 30 seconds. The MVD, the MVD helps you to do school on the days when you wouldn't normally do school because everything has exploded around you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it does. It really has to be short. And it can change. That's the
Mhm.
beautiful thing about it. It could be different for different age kids in your house. It could be different if your kids are more independent or if they're more dependent on you. You can keep a certain MVD, like a very small stripped down one for the boot camp, and then gradually add a couple more things to it. But you never want it to get too long because it really is this emergency. It's like breaking the glass in case of emergency. It's you break the glass, you pull out your MVD, and you've got it to use. And so definitely we've got to go back to the basics to be able to
Yeah.
succeed with learning how to be consistent.
Yeah. I would say I totally agree with that. And my youngest is a senior this year. I no longer have an MVD and I haven't for a couple of years because that's just the expectation now that they have is that they do school. And so we do school. It's an aid for the long haul.
Yeah, very much. All right. And then I think so the last one that we had officially was there is never a better time to start than now, right?
You can't start last month because last month is gone. And you could start later, but you're just going to feel guilty from now until later. It's an incredibly helpful course. It's not a very time intensive course. What we're helping you think through how to think about consistent homeschooling and then put it into practice. We don't want you to spend a lot of time on our stuff. We want you to spend time on the homeschooling.
Yeah. And this is by design that
Mm.
we're not layering other things on top of what you're doing in your homeschool. We're giving you some tools and some mindset shifts because I would say that it's probably about 40% tools and about 60% mindset shifts. And so we're giving you that to do a lot, like to use it with what you're doing. So you're probably, and I think it's pretty safe to say that most people would tell you they get way more school done during the boot camp period. It's easier to do school because that's the beauty of it. That's what you do. You come for the accountability and then you reap the benefits for years afterwards.
For sure. Yeah. I was going to say 40 to 60% is that, but that's 50% of the course. The 50% of the accountability piece really does that. If you are consistently checking in every day, even if it's to say, nope, I didn't get school done today, you're still thinking about your consistency and kind of trying to troubleshoot, how do I make it better tomorrow? And we want you to make it better tomorrow and for the months and years to follow.
Yeah. Yeah. So being really intentional is just so huge. And so we're not giving you tons of homework to do on top of. The first 3 days are the most intense, where we're throwing a little bit of information at you and you're reading it and consuming it. But even that probably takes no more than an hour and a half for the first kind of week. And then after that, it gets into 30 minutes every few days. But you're actively homeschooling while you're doing all of this and just reaping the benefits of that homeschooling. If you're listening to this when it drops on Tuesday, October 22nd, you have until Friday the 25th to get inside, and then we kind of have to close the doors. We already have some people in there doing the pre-work, and so you'll want to work on that this weekend and then hit the ground running with lesson 1 on Monday of next week. And if you're listening to this after and you've missed the opportunity to get in, the next opportunity we'll have is in December with our Elevate All Access program. You can go ahead and sign up for that. That has a lot of other great things in it as well. And then you will get both boot camps for next year, or you could just watch this space for February of 2025 when we'll do our next session of boot camp. And we would love to have you join us if this is a struggle that you have. I would say this is probably one of the most life-changing things that we do.
I think so. Yeah. We usually also have a waitlist button on the consistency page. So you can always sign up on there and get an email when we open the doors again.
Yeah, great point. All right, Dawn, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me about all the stuff we've learned over the years from the Homeschool Consistency Bootcamp. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I love boot